close your eyes and imagine a world where shadows hold secrets, where desires are traded in the whispers of twilight. Welcome, weary travelers, to the realm of dreams and mysteries, where tales unfold like delicate petals in the moonlight. In the heart of a bustling city, hidden from sight, lies the shadow market, a place where the boundaries between reality and fantasy blur. Here, amidst the flickering torches and labyrinthine alleys, one can find wonders beyond imagination and prices beyond reckoning. Join us on a journey through the cobblestone streets where shadows dance and dreams take flight. Let the gentle cadence of our voices guide you into the realm of sleep, where adventures await and legends are born. So close your eyes, dear listener, and let your mind wander. For tonight, we embark on a tale of cunning thieves, kind-hearted souls, and the wisdom of a wily old fox. Welcome to Sleepytime Chronicles, where the journey begins and the magic never fades. The Shadow Market. Chapter 1. Shadows and Desires. In the heart of the bustling city, where the cobblestone streets twisted and turned like the threads of an old tapestry, there lay a hidden market. This market, shrouded in mystery and cloaked in shadows, was known only to a select few. It was said that here, in this shadowed place, one could trade anything for their deepest desires. It was the shadow market, where shadows themselves held value beyond measure. The market came alive as twilight descended, casting long, flickering shadows that danced in the torchlight. Stalls brimmed with curious wares, enchanted trinkets, bottled whispers, and vials of moonlight. Vendors, cloaked in darkness, whispered enticing offers to the passers-by, their voices like the rustling of leaves on an autumn night. Among the myriad of stalls, each more peculiar than the last, stood a merchant with eyes as cold as winter's breath. His name was Mercurio, a greedy merchant known for his cunning and insatiable desire for profit. Mercurio's stall was unlike any other, for he dealt in shadows. For a price, he could grant any wish, but the cost was steep: one's shadow. Mercurio's stall was adorned with a multitude of shadows, each hanging like a dark, ethereal tapestry. They swayed and fluttered as if caught in an unseen breeze, each one a testament to the desires of those who had traded them away. The air around his stall was thick with the scent of old magic and broken dreams. One fateful evening, as the market thrummed with the murmur of secret bargains, a clever thief named Alaric found himself drawn to the shadow market. Alaric was known throughout the city for his quick wit and nimble fingers, traits that had kept him one step ahead of the law. He had heard whispers of the market's wonders, and curiosity gnawed at him like a relentless mouse. The lure of a wish granted was too enticing to resist. As Alaric navigated the labyrinthine alleys of the market, he was struck by the sheer variety of the offerings. Strange creatures peddled potions that promised eternal youth, talismans that warded off ill fortune, and maps that led to hidden treasures. But it was Mercurio's stall that ultimately captured his attention. The greedy merchant's eyes gleamed with a knowing light as Alaric approached. "What is it that you desire?" Mercurio's voice was smooth, like silk over steel, and it sent a shiver down Alaric's spine. Alaric hesitated for a moment, the weight of his decision pressing upon him. He had come to the market with a single purpose: to seek wealth beyond measure, enough to live like a king. But now, standing before Mercurio, he felt a pang of doubt. Was the price too high? "What is it that you desire?" Mercurio repeated, his gaze never wavering. "I seek wealth," Alaric finally replied, his voice steady despite the uncertainty gnawing at him. "Wealth beyond measure." Mercurio's smile was sly, a predator's grin. "It can be done, but the price is your shadow." Desperation drove Alaric to agree, and with a flick of the merchant's wrist, Alaric's shadow was severed. It slid away from him, leaving him feeling oddly hollow. In return, a chest of gold appeared at his feet, and Alaric left the market, richer, but somehow diminished. As he made his way back through the winding streets, the weight of his decision pressed heavily upon him. The gold gleamed temptingly in the torchlight, but the absence of his shadow cast a long, cold shadow over his newfound wealth. Alaric could not shake the feeling that he had paid a far greater price than he had anticipated. Days turned into weeks, and Alaric enjoyed his newfound wealth. He moved into a grand house on the hill, filled with fine furniture and sumptuous feasts. Servants attended to his every need, and he was dressed in the finest silks. Yet, as time passed, he began to notice strange occurrences. People seemed to avoid him, casting wary glances in his direction. The once warm greetings from neighbors turned to whispers and sidelong looks. His once sharp instincts dulled, and he found himself increasingly uneasy. Without his shadow, Alaric felt incomplete, as if a part of his very essence had been ripped away. The shadowless nights weighed heavily on him. He no longer felt the thrill of the chase, the exhilaration of outwitting his pursuers. Instead, there was a gnawing emptiness, a sense of loss that he could not shake. One evening, while wandering through the bustling market square, Alaric's attention was caught by the sight of a kind-hearted peasant named Leora. She stood on a wooden crate, speaking passionately to a small crowd about the plight of her village, which had been struck by a terrible drought. Her voice was filled with a desperate hope that resonated with Alaric's own sense of loss. Intrigued, Alaric approached her after the crowd had dispersed. "What brings you to the city?" he asked. Leora looked at him with kind, weary eyes. "I came seeking help for my village. We have no water, no crops. Our people are suffering. I heard tales of a market where one can trade for their deepest desires, and I hoped to find a solution." Alaric's heart went out to her. "I know of the market you speak of. It is a place of great power, but the price is always high." Leora nodded solemnly. "I was desperate. I traded my shadow for rain to save my village. It worked, but now..." She trailed off, looking down at the ground where her shadow should have been. Alaric saw the pain in her eyes, a reflection of his own torment. "I, too, traded my shadow," he confessed, "for wealth, but it has brought me no happiness, only sorrow." They talked long into the night, sharing their stories and the burdens that came with their wishes. Alaric learned that Leora's sacrifice had indeed brought prosperity to her village, but like him, she felt the loss of her shadow keenly. Despite her selflessness, the villagers now viewed her with suspicion, as if sensing the unnatural void where her shadow once was. Their bond grew as they realized they were not alone in their suffering. United by their shared loss, Alaric and Leora decided to seek out a way to reclaim their shadows. They knew it would not be easy, but their resolve was firm. They would not rest until they were whole once more. Venturing to the edge of the city, to the place where the light of day met the dark of night, they encountered a talking animal, a wise old fox named Reynard. The fox had a reputation for knowing the secrets of the shadow market and the ways of the world beyond. Reynard listened to their plight. His eyes, which seemed to pierce through the very fabric of reality, reflecting deep understanding. "The shadow market is a place of great peril," he warned. "The greedy merchant deals in more than just shadows. He trades in the essence of souls. To reclaim what you have lost, you must outwit him, for he guards his treasures jealously." Reynard's words were both a warning and a challenge. Heeding the fox's advice, Alaric and Leora prepared themselves for the challenge ahead. They knew that retrieving their shadows would not be easy, and the cost might be higher than they could imagine. But their resolve was unshakable, and they set out on their quest with newfound determination. As the moon rose high in the sky, casting an ethereal glow over the city, Alaric and Leora set their plans into motion. Alaric, ever the strategist, knew that their success hinged on their ability to outsmart Mercurio. They could not confront him directly. They needed a plan as cunning as the greedy merchant himself. We must understand his weaknesses, Alaric mused, pacing back and forth under the ancient tree where they had met Reynard. The fox sat nearby, his eyes gleaming with wisdom and mischief. Reynard nodded. Mercurio's strength lies in his greed. He craves power and riches above all else. If you can appeal to that, you may find an opening. Alaric thought for a moment. Then a slow smile spread across his face. What if we offered him something he desires even more than shadows? Something he could never attain by ordinary means. Leora's eyes lit up with understanding. A wish. We could offer him a wish. Reynard's ears twitched with approval. Yes, but be wary. Mercurio is cunning and will not be easily deceived. Trust in each other and in the strength of your convictions. With Reynard's words of wisdom echoing in their minds, Alaric and Leora set off towards the shadow market once more. The streets were quieter now, the shadows deeper, as if the city itself held its breath in anticipation. The shadow market was even more foreboding under the cloak of night. The stalls seemed to pulse with an eerie glow, and strange, otherworldly figures moved among them. Alaric and Leora moved cautiously, every step measured and silent. The shadows of the market, restless and whispering, seemed to sense their purpose. They reached Mercurio's stall, where the merchant sat, his eyes glittering with malevolence. Alaric stepped forward, a confident smile on his lips. We have a proposition for you, Mercurio. The merchant's interest was piqued. And what might that be? Alaric gestured to Leora, who stepped forward, holding a small, intricately carved box. Within this box lies a wish, she said softly. A wish that could fulfill your deepest desire. Mercurio's gaze fixated on the box, his greed palpable. And what do you ask in return? Alaric's voice was firm. Our shadows. Return them to us, and the wish is yours. Mercurio's laughter echoed through the market. You think me a fool? Wishes come with a price, an ideal in shadows. But I am intrigued. Show me this wish. With a nod from Reynard, Leora opened the box, revealing a shimmering light that seemed to pulse with power. Mercurio's eyes widened, his greed overwhelming his caution. He reached for the box, but Alaric stepped in his path. First, our shadows, Alaric demanded. Mercurio's smile faded, replaced by a calculating look. He weighed his options, the allure of the wish battling with his instinct for self-preservation. After a tense moment, He snapped his fingers, and two shadows, dark and ethereal, appeared beside him. Alaric and Leora felt a pull, a yearning, as their shadows drew closer. Their hearts pounded as the shadows inched towards them, bringing with them a sense of wholeness they had long missed. But Mercurio, ever the trickster, lunged for the box at the last moment. In a swift movement, Alaric knocked the box from Leora's hands, causing it to shatter and release a blinding light. Mercurio screamed in rage, his form wavering in the intense glow. Seizing the moment, Alaric and Leora grasped their shadows, feeling them reattach and fill the void within their souls. The light from the box began to fade, and Mercurio's form solidified, his fury palpable. "You dare to deceive me," he roared. Alaric and Leora, their shadows restored, felt a profound sense of completion. The void within them, once so stark and empty, was now filled with the familiar presence of their shadows. But their victory was not yet secure. Mercurio's eyes blazed with anger, his lips curling into a snarl. "You dare to deceive me?" Mercurio's voice was a low growl, filled with menace. Leora, her heart pounding, but her resolve unbroken, stepped forward. "We dared because we seek what is rightfully ours. You trade in shadows, Mercurio, but you cannot own what belongs to our souls." The greedy merchant's fury was palpable, but Leora's words struck a chord. The crowd in the market began to gather, drawn by the commotion. Whispered conversations rippled through the onlookers, their faces shadowed with curiosity and fear. Alaric, sensing an opportunity, addressed the crowd. "We came here with nothing but our hopes and dreams, and we were deceived. This market thrives on the greed of one man who would take our very essence for his gain. But today, we reclaim our shadows and our dignity." Leora, inspired by Alaric's boldness, added, "We know many of you have lost your shadows, your very essence, in this market. Together, we can stand against this greed and reclaim what is ours." A murmur of agreement spread through the crowd, their courage bolstered by the words of the clever thief and the kind-hearted peasant. The market, once a place of dark secrets and whispered deals, now thrummed with a growing defiance. Mercurio's eyes narrowed, his grip tightening on the remnants of the shattered box. "You think you can challenge me? This market is mine." But before he could act, Renard the fox stepped forward, his voice calm and steady. "Mercurio, you have built your empire on the misery of others. It is time for that empire to fall. The shadows belong to their rightful owners, not to your greed." The fox's words were like a balm to the gathered crowd. Their whispers grew into a chorus of determination, their shadows beginning to flicker and pulse with newfound strength. Mercurio, sensing the tide turning against him, tried one last desperate gambit. "Very well," he sneered. "If you want your shadows back, you must face the final trial. Only those truly worthy may reclaim what is theirs." With a snap of his fingers, the ground beneath Alaric and Leora shifted, and they found themselves plunged into darkness. The market and its denizens vanished, replaced by a vast, shadowy realm. The air was thick with an oppressive silence, broken only by the faint whispers of lost shadows. Leora took a deep breath, her determination unwavering. "We must be true to ourselves, Alaric. Only then can we pass this trial." Alaric nodded, his sharp mind already working through the possibilities. "We must trust in our hearts and in each other. The way forward will reveal itself." They took each other's hands, their fingers intertwined, and began to walk through the shadowy realm. The path was uncertain, but their resolve was strong. Each step brought them closer to the heart of the trial, where their true courage and kindness would be tested. As they walked, they encountered visions of their past mistakes and regrets, each one a shadow of their former selves. Alaric faced the specters of those he had wronged in his life of thievery, while Leora confronted the doubts that had plagued her selfless journey. Together, they acknowledged their faults and forgave themselves, their shadows growing stronger with each revelation. The darkness around them began to lift, replaced by a soft, ethereal light. In the heart of the shadowy realm, they found a mirror that reflected not just their images, but their souls. Alaric saw himself not as a thief, but as a man capable of great good. Leora saw herself not as a mere peasant, but as a beacon of hope. Their shadows, now fully restored and vibrant, stood beside them as equals. They had passed the final trial, not through cunning or force, but through the strength of their character and the purity of their hearts. With the final step, they emerged from the shadowy realm, back into the bustling market. The crowd, who had witnessed their disappearance, now erupted in cheers. Alaric and Leora had not only reclaimed their shadows, but had also inspired a movement against the greed that had long plagued the shadow market. As Alaric and Leora stood triumphantly before the cheering crowd, Reynard the fox approached with a grave expression. The jubilation around them began to fade as they noticed his serious demeanor. The wise old fox, who had been their guide and confidant, now had words of caution to share. "Alaric, Leora," Reynard began, his voice low, but carrying the weight of wisdom. "You have done well to reclaim your shadows and inspire these people. But your journey is not yet over. the greedy merchant's grip on the market and its people remains strong. He will not relent easily. Leora, her heart still racing from the trial they had just endured, looked at Reynard with concern. What must we do, Reynard? How can we ensure that Mercurio's power is broken for good? Reynard's eyes gleamed with the light of ancient knowledge. Mercurio's strength lies not only in his greed, but in the fear and desperation of those who come to his market. You must strike at the heart of his power, the very essence of his greed. Only then can you free the market from his grasp. Alaric, ever the strategist, nodded thoughtfully. We need to find the source of his power and confront him directly. But we must be cautious. Mercurio is cunning and will not be easily defeated. Reynard nodded. Indeed. You must gather allies and prepare yourselves for a final confrontation. There are others in this market who have suffered under Mercurio's rule. Seek them out and unite them in your cause. With Reynard's guidance, Alaric and Leora began to move through the market, seeking out those who had lost their shadows and their hope. They spoke to the vendors, the customers, and even the shadowy figures who lurked in the corners. Each person they met had a story of loss and longing, of dreams traded for fleeting desires. Among those they spoke to was a former merchant named Elias, who had once been a rival to Mercurio. Elias had lost his shadow and his business to Mercurio's ruthless deals. He was bitter and broken, but Alaric and Leora's determination sparked a glimmer of hope in his eyes. You believe you can stand against Mercurio? Elias asked, his voice tinged with skepticism and curiosity. We do, Alaric replied firmly. But we cannot do it alone. We need your help and the help of everyone here who has suffered under his greed. Elias looked around at the gathering crowd, the faces of those who had been wronged by Mercurio. He saw in their eyes the same fire that burned in Alaric and Leora. With a deep breath, he nodded. Very well, I will help you. We will all help you. The news of their rebellion spread quickly through the market. Those who had once been silent in their suffering now found their voices, united in their desire to reclaim their shadows and their dignity. The market, once a place of dark secrets and whispered deals, began to hum with the energy of resistance. Reynard watched with approval as Alaric and Leora rallied their newfound allies. Remember, he said, his voice carrying over the crowd, Mercurio's power is rooted in his greed. You must confront him not with violence, but with the strength of your resolve and the purity of your intentions. As the preparations for the final confrontation took shape, Alaric and Leora felt a sense of purpose and unity they had never known before. They were no longer alone in their struggle. The entire market had become a part of their quest, a quest to free themselves from the shadow of Mercurio's greed. With their plan in place and their allies by their side, they knew that the time had come to face Mercurio once and for all. The final confrontation loomed on the horizon, a battle not of swords and strength, but of wills and wisdom. With the market abuzz with the energy of newfound hope, Alaric and Leora prepared for their final confrontation with Mercurio. Their hearts were steeled with resolve, their minds sharp with determination. They knew that this was not merely a battle for their shadows, but for the very soul of the market itself. As twilight descended, casting long, flickering shadows, the gathered crowd made their way to Mercurio's stall. The greedy merchant stood behind his display, his eyes cold and calculating, a thin smile playing on his lips. He knew they were coming, and he was ready. "Welcome back," Mercurio said smoothly, his voice dripping with false charm. "I see you've brought friends. How quaint." Alaric stepped forward, his voice ringing clear and strong. "We are here to reclaim what is ours, Mercurio. Your reign of greed ends tonight." Mercurio's smile widened, though it did not reach his eyes. "Brave words, thief. But you forget, this market runs on the currency of desire. And desire is something I control." Leora, standing beside Alaric, raised her voice. "We have all paid the price for our desires, Mercurio, but we will not be enslaved by them any longer. We stand together, united, and we will take back our shadows." The crowd echoed her sentiment, their voices rising in a powerful chorus. Mercurio's smile faltered as he saw the determination in their eyes. These were not mere customers. They were a force to be reckoned with. Reynard, the wise old fox, stepped forward. "Mercurio, your power lies in your ability to exploit the desires of others, but you have underestimated the strength of unity and the power of true resolve." Mercurio's eyes narrowed, his gaze flicking between Reynard, Alaric, and Leora. He could see that they were not bluffing. With a gesture, he summoned the shadows that he had collected, dark and ethereal forms that swirled around him like a storm. "You want your shadows back?" he sneered. "Then come and take them." Alaric and Leora exchanged a glance, their resolve unbroken. They stepped forward, the crowd parting to let them through. As they approached, the shadows around Mercurio hissed and writhed, but the two friends did not falter. Alaric reached into his cloak and pulled out a small, glowing crystal, a gift from Reynard. It was a shard of pure light, a beacon of hope and truth. He He held it high, and the light blazed forth, cutting through the darkness. The shadows recoiled from the light, their ethereal forms dissipating in the glow. Mercurio shielded his eyes, his power waning in the face of such purity. "What is this?" he demanded, his voice a mix of anger and fear. "It is the light of truth," Renard replied, his voice calm and steady. "It reveals the true nature of things, beyond the shadows of greed and desire." Mercurio's grip on his stolen shadows weakened, and the dark forms began to drift away, returning to their rightful owners. The crowd watched in awe as their shadows reunited with them, the sense of wholeness and completion washing over them. With a final burst of light, the crystal shattered, and the last of Mercurio's power faded. The greedy merchant, now exposed and powerless, looked around in desperation. The market, once his domain, had turned against him. Alaric and Leora stood before him, their shadows restored, their hearts unburdened. "Your reign is over, Mercurio," Alaric said. "The shadow market belongs to the people now." The crowd surged forward, not with violence, but with the strength of their unity. Mercurio, seeing the futility of resistance, slunk away into the darkness, his empire of greed crumbling behind him. Reynard watched with satisfaction as the market transformed. The stalls, once shrouded in shadow, now gleamed with the light of hope and community. The people, united by their shared struggle, began to rebuild, turning the shadow market into a place of fairness and mutual aid. Alaric and Leora stood side by side, their journey complete, but their work just beginning. They had reclaimed their shadows, but more importantly, they had reclaimed their dignity and their future. As they looked out over the transformed market, they knew that together they had created something truly magical. Chapter 2: The Quest for Shadows. As dawn broke over the newly transformed market, Alaric and Leora knew that their journey was far from over. Though they had reclaimed their shadows and inspired the people, Mercurio's influence lingered like a dark stain. To ensure the market's freedom, they needed to dismantle his power completely. And that required one final act of cunning: a heist. Gathered around a makeshift table in a secluded corner of the market, Alaric, Leora, Renard, and their allies began to formulate a plan. The table was strewn with maps of the market, sketches of Mercurio's lair, and notes on his habits and defenses. Alaric, his sharp mind focused on the task, addressed the group. We know that Mercurio's power stems from a central artifact, a crystal that amplifies his greed and allows him to manipulate shadows. If we can steal it, we can strip him of his remaining influence. Leora nodded, her eyes filled with determination. But it won't be easy. Mercurio will be on high alert after what happened last night. We need a distraction to draw his attention away from the crystal. Renard, ever the strategist, tapped a claw against the map. The market itself can be our ally. If we can stage a diversion at one end, Mercurio will be forced to leave his lair unguarded. Meanwhile, a small, stealthy team can infiltrate and retrieve the crystal. Elias, the former merchant, leaned forward, his face set in a grim smile. I know the layout of Mercurio's lair. He keeps the crystal in a chamber beneath his stall, guarded by traps and enchantments. But there's a hidden passage that can bypass most of his defenses. Alaric's eyes gleamed with excitement. Then it settled. Elias, Leora, and I will form the retrieval team. Renard, you'll coordinate the distraction with the others. The group spent the rest of the day preparing, gathering supplies, and refining their plan. As night fell, the market's torches cast flickering shadows that seemed to pulse with anticipation. The air was thick with tension, but also with a sense of unity and purpose. As the appointed hour approached, Alaric, Leora, and Elias made their way to the hidden passage, guided by Renard's careful instructions. The passage was narrow and dark, its walls lined with ancient runes that glowed faintly in the dim light. This way, Elias whispered, leading them through a series of twists and turns. We'll be right beneath Mercurio's stall soon. Be ready for anything. Meanwhile, at the far end of the market, Renard and the rest of the group began their diversion. They set off fireworks and staged mock arguments, drawing the attention of Mercurio's remaining guards. The noise and chaos spread quickly, pulling Mercurio himself from his lair to investigate. With the path clear, Alaric, Leora, and Elias emerged from the hidden passage into the heart of Mercurio's lair. The chamber was vast and opulent, filled with treasures and artifacts collected over years of greedy dealings. At the center, on a pedestal of black marble, sat the crystal, a dark, pulsating gem that seemed to radiate malevolence. There it is, Leora whispered, her voice tinged with awe and dread. The source of his power. Alaric approached the pedestal cautiously, his eyes scanning for traps. Stay close and be ready to move. We don't know what defenses he's set up. As he reached for the crystal, the air around them seemed to shimmer, and a deep, resonant voice echoed through the chamber. Who dares to steal from me? Mercurio's form appeared in the doorway, his eyes blazing with fury. The time for subtlety was over. They had to act quickly if they were to succeed. As Mercurio's enraged voice echoed through the chamber, Alaric quickly withdrew his hand from the crystal. The room seemed to pulse with malevolent energy, shadows shifting and twisting as if alive. Alaric knew they had only moments before Mercurio's full wrath descended upon them. "Quickly," Alaric whispered, urgency sharpening his tone. "We need to disable the traps before he reaches us." Elias, who had navigated Mercurio's defenses before, nodded and moved with practiced ease. He began tracing intricate symbols in the air, his fingers glowing with a faint, magical light. The runes on the walls responded, their glow dimming slightly as the traps deactivated one by one. Leora kept her eyes on Mercurio, who was striding towards them with fury. His presence seemed to warp the very air around him, a palpable aura of menace. "We don't have much time, Elias," she urged, her voice tense but steady. The former merchant worked swiftly, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Almost there," he muttered, a final symbol flaring brightly before the traps fell silent. "It's done. Now, Alaric, grab the crystal." With the traps disabled, Alaric wasted no time. He reached out and seized the dark, pulsating gem from its pedestal. The moment his fingers closed around it, a shockwave of energy surged through the chamber, sending ripples through the shadows. Mercurio roared in anger, his eyes blazing with unbridled rage. "You dare to defy me? You will pay for your insolence." He raised his hand, and the shadows around him coalesced into dark, writhing tendrils, reaching out to ensnare them. Alaric, holding the crystal tightly, felt its power coursing through him, amplifying his senses and sharpening his mind. He could see the pathways through the shadows, the weaknesses in Mercurio's attacks. "This way!" he shouted, leading Leora and Elias towards the hidden passage. They sprinted through the narrow tunnel, the darkness pressing in around them. The sounds of pursuit echoed behind them, but Alaric's keen instincts guided them safely through the twists and turns. "We're almost there," he called, the exit looming ahead. Bursting out into the open market, they found Reynard and their allies still engaged in the diversion. The sight of Alaric with the crystal sent a wave of excitement and determination through the crowd. "They've got it!" someone shouted, and the chaos redoubled as they prepared to stand against Mercurio's inevitable retaliation. But Mercurio was not far behind. He emerged from the hidden passage, his face contorted with fury, his eyes locked on the crystal in Alaric's hand. "Give it back!" he bellowed, his voice a thunderous command. Reynard stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with calm defiance. "Your time of greed and tyranny is over, Mercurio. The people of the market have reclaimed their power. You have no hold over them anymore." Mercurio's laugh was a harsh, grating sound. Foolish fox, you think you can stand against me, against the power I wield? Alaric, feeling the crystal's energy thrumming within him, raised it high. This crystal is the source of your power, Mercurio. And now it will be your undoing. With a determined shout, he slammed the crystal against the ground. It shattered into 1,000 pieces, releasing a blinding light that washed over the market. The shadows screamed as they were obliterated, their dark tendrils disintegrating in the pure, cleansing light. Mercurio fell to his knees, his power stripped away, his form shrinking and withering. The crowd watched in awe and relief as the once mighty merchant was reduced to a shadow of his former self, his greed and malevolence powerless against the unity and resolve of the people. As the light faded, the market stood transformed, no longer a place of fear and deceit, but a beacon of hope and community. Alaric, Leora, and Reynard stood together, their hearts filled with the knowledge that they had not only reclaimed their shadows, but had also restored the soul of the market. The silence that followed the crystal's shattering was profound, as if the very air held its breath. The market, bathed in the soft glow of the dissipating light, seemed to stand still. Alaric, Leora, and Reynard turned to face Mercurio, who knelt amidst the fragments of his shattered power, a shadow of his former self. Mercurio's eyes, once so cold and calculating, now reflected only fear and desperation. He looked up at Alaric, his voice a whisper of its former strength. You don't understand. You've doomed us all. Alaric's gaze was unwavering. No, Mercurio. We've freed ourselves from your tyranny. Your greed has no place here anymore. The crowd, emboldened by the light and the courage of their leaders, began to gather around the fallen merchant. Whispers of anger and hope intertwined, the collective voice of those who had suffered under Mercurio's rule. They watched, waiting to see the final reckoning. Leora stepped forward, her kind heart tempered by resolve. Mercurio, your power came from exploiting the desires and fears of others. You built an empire on shadows and lies. But we are more than our desires. We are a community, and we stand together. Reynard, his eyes still sharp with wisdom, added, It's time you face the consequences of your actions. The market will no longer be a place of darkness and greed. It will become a haven of fairness and unity. Mercurio's form trembled, the weight of his deeds pressing down on him. I only wanted to be powerful, to be feared and respected. Alaric shook his head. Respect and power earned through fear and deceit are hollow. True strength comes from the bonds we forge, from the trust and cooperation of those around us. As Mercurio looked around, he saw not the hatred he had expected, but a glimmer of pity in the eyes of those he had wronged. The people of the market, despite their suffering, were ready to move beyond their pain and build a better future. With a final, weary sigh, Mercurio lowered his head. "What will become of me?" Leora's voice was gentle but firm. "You will face justice for your actions, but you will also have a chance to redeem yourself, to learn from your mistakes and make amends. The market will be rebuilt, not on shadows, but on light and hope." The crowd parted as Mercurio was led away. They resolved to create a new beginning stronger than ever. Alaric, Leora, and Renard stood at the heart of this transformation, their spirits buoyed by the unity and determination of the people around them. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, the market began to stir with a new kind of energy. Stalls were set up not for exploitation, but for the fair exchange of goods and ideas. The air was filled with the sounds of laughter and conversation, a stark contrast to the tense, whispered dealings of the past. Alaric looked at Leora, his heart swelling with pride and hope. "We did it. We've given the market back to the people." Leora smiled, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Yes, we have. And now we must continue to protect it, to nurture the spirit of community and fairness we've reclaimed." Renard, ever the wise guide, nodded in agreement. This is only the beginning. The true test will be maintaining this unity and ensuring that greed and darkness do not take root again. Together, they watched as the market flourished, a testament to the power of unity and the indomitable human spirit. They knew that challenges would come, but they also knew that united, they could overcome anything. As the market returned to life with a renewed spirit, Alaric and Leora felt a sense of accomplishment. Yet beneath the surface of their triumph, they knew the true cost of their journey. The retrieval of their shadows had come at a price, not just in the struggle and danger they had faced, but in the deeper understanding of the sacrifices they and others had made. Alaric sat on a stone bench near the heart of the market, the remnants of the shattered crystal still glimmering faintly at his feet. He held a piece of the crystal in his hand, turning it over thoughtfully. The power it once held had been both a blessing and a curse, and its destruction had brought both liberation and a reminder of the consequences of unchecked desires. Leora joined him, her presence a comforting balm to his contemplative mood. "Do you think we've truly changed things, Alaric?" she asked, her voice soft but filled with hope. He looked at her, the weariness of their journey reflected in his eyes. We've set the market on a new path, but the real change will come from the people themselves. We've given them the opportunity to reclaim their dignity and their community, but it's up to them to maintain it. Leora nodded, her gaze drifting to the bustling market around them. Vendors were setting up their stalls with goods that reflected honest labor and fair trade. Children ran through the aisles, their laughter a joyous sound that filled the air with a sense of normalcy and peace. "We've all paid a price," Leora said quietly. "Our shadows, our fears, our very essence. But perhaps the greatest cost was the realization that we are capable of both great good and great harm." Alaric placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "It's that realization that makes us stronger. We know what we're capable of, and we choose to act with integrity and kindness. That's what will keep this market and our hearts free from the shadows." As they sat together, reflecting on their journey, Reynard approached, his wise eyes twinkling with approval. "You've done well, both of you. The market is healing, and the people are finding their way. But remember, the cost of vigilance is eternal. Greed and darkness can creep back if we're not careful." Alaric and Leora nodded in agreement. They knew that their roles as protectors and guides were far from over. The cost of retrieval was not just in the act itself, but in the ongoing responsibility to nurture and safeguard the community they had helped to free. The sun rose higher, casting a warm glow over the market. Alaric stood, his resolve firm. "We should speak to the people, remind them of what we've achieved and what lies ahead." Leora stood beside him, her spirit renewed. "Yes, they need to hear that this victory is just the beginning. Together we can ensure that the market remains a place of fairness and unity." The trio made their way to the center of the market, where a crowd had gathered, curious and hopeful. Alaric raised his voice, the sound carrying over the murmurs of the assembled people. "Friends, we have reclaimed our shadows and our dignity, but this is not the end. It is the beginning of a new era for our market, an era where fairness, honesty, and community thrive. We must remain vigilant and united, for the true cost of our retrieval is the responsibility to protect what we have won." The crowd erupted in cheers, their faces shining with hope and determination. Alaric and Leora felt a surge of pride and purpose. They had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, but they knew that the real challenge lay in maintaining the light they had brought back. As the people dispersed, ready to embrace their roles in the new market, Alaric, Leora, and Reynard stood together, their bond forged in the fires of their shared struggle. They were ready to face whatever came next, knowing that the cost of their journey had been worth every sacrifice. The market's transformation brought with it a renewed sense of hope and purpose, but it also brought introspection. Alaric and Leora, having faced their deepest fears and desires, knew they had more to learn about the true price of their wishes. One afternoon, as the market thrived under the warm sun, Alaric found himself drawn to the spot where he had first encountered Mercurio. The remnants of Mercurio's once grand stall now lay in ruins, a testament to the fall of his greed-driven empire. As Alaric stood there, a familiar voice broke his reverie. "It's strange, isn't it, to think how much we were willing to give up for a simple wish," Leora said, joining him. Her eyes were thoughtful, reflecting the wisdom they had both gained. Alaric nodded. "We were so focused on what we thought we needed that we didn't consider the real cost. Mercurio thrived on that single-minded desire. But we've learned that our wishes, our desires, come with responsibilities." Leora's expression softened. "And with consequences. I thought I could save my village by trading my shadow, but it wasn't just about the rain. It was about what we lost in the process, the trust, the sense of completeness." Reynard, ever the silent observer, padded up to them, his eyes gleaming with approval. Desires are powerful, but unchecked, they can lead us astray. The true price of a wish is not just the immediate cost, but the long-term effects on our souls and our community. Alaric turned to the fox, his voice filled with gratitude. "You helped us see that, Reynard. You guided us through our darkest moments and showed us the way back to the light." Reynard bowed his head modestly. "You both had the strength within you. I merely illuminated the path. The real test was in facing your desires and understanding their impact." As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the market, Alaric and Leora decided to address the gathered crowd. They had a message to share, a lesson they had learned through their trials. Standing atop a wooden platform, Alaric raised his hand to call for attention. The market quieted, and all eyes turned to him and Leora. "Friends, we have all paid a price for our wishes," Alaric began, his voice clear and strong. "We traded our shadows for dreams, only to find that the cost was far greater than we imagined." Leora continued, her voice gentle but firm. "Our journey taught us that wishes can be dangerous if they are pursued without consideration of the consequences. We must remember that our actions affect not just ourselves, but those around us." Reynard stepped forward, adding his wisdom. The true price of a wish is the understanding that comes with it. We must balance our desires with responsibility and compassion. Only then can we create a future that honors our dreams without sacrificing our integrity. The crowd listened intently, their faces reflecting a mixture of understanding and determination. The lessons of the past days had not been lost on them. They had seen the darkness of unchecked greed and the light of unity and hope. As Alaric, Leora, and Reynard stepped down from the platform, they felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The market was not just a place of commerce anymore. It was a community bound by shared experiences and newfound wisdom. That evening, as the stars began to twinkle in the sky, Alaric and Leora sat by a small fire, the warmth of the flames mirroring the warmth in their hearts. They had faced their desires, confronted their fears, and emerged stronger for it. "We've come a long way, Alaric," Leora said softly, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "Yes, we have," Alaric agreed, his heart full of gratitude. "And we've learned that the true price of a wish is the journey it takes us on and the growth it brings." Reynard, watching over them, nodded in silent agreement. The true price of their wishes had indeed been high, but it had also led them to a deeper understanding of themselves and their place in the world. As the first light of dawn began to break over the horizon, casting a gentle glow across the transformed market, Alaric and Leora prepared for their journey back home. The market, now a symbol of unity and hope, thrived with new energy and purpose. The people, once burdened by the shadows of their desires, had embraced the lessons learned and were rebuilding their lives with fairness and compassion. Alaric stood by the edge of the market, watching the bustling activity with a sense of satisfaction and peace. Leora joined him, her eyes reflecting the same feelings. "It's time for us to go back," she said softly. "Our journey here has come to an end, but our work continues at home." Alaric nodded, his gaze meeting hers. "We've changed, Leora. We've grown and learned so much. And now we must take those lessons back to our own lives and communities." Reynard approached them, his presence as comforting and wise as ever. "You have both done well," he said, "but remember, the journey is never truly over. The lessons you've learned here must be carried with you always." Alaric knelt beside the fox, his voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Reynard, for guiding us and helping us see the truth. We couldn't have done it without you." Reynard bowed his head modestly. "The strength was always within you. I merely helped you see it. Go now with my blessing and continue to spread the light you found. With a final farewell to their friends and the community they had helped to transform, Alaric and Leora set off on the path back to their respective homes. The journey, though long, felt lighter than before, their hearts buoyed by the knowledge and wisdom they carried. As they walked, they spoke of their plans for the future. Alaric, once a clever thief, now envisioned a life dedicated to helping others, using his skills to build and protect rather than deceive. Leora, with her kind heart, dreamed of bringing the spirit of the market to her village, fostering a sense of community and fairness. The landscape changed as they traveled, the bustling city giving way to rolling hills and quiet forests. Along the way, they encountered people from all walks of life, sharing their stories and spreading the message of hope and unity. Their journey became a testament to the power of change and the importance of integrity. One evening, as they camped by a serene lake, Leora looked up at the stars, her thoughts turning to the future. Do you think we'll ever face challenges like those we encountered in the market? She asked. Alaric, lying beside her, pondered the question. Challenges will always come, Leora, but we're stronger now, and we have each other. Whatever comes our way, we'll face it with the courage and wisdom we've gained. Leora smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace. You're right. Together, we can overcome anything. Their journey continued, each step bringing them closer to home and to the fulfillment of their dreams. They knew that the path ahead would not always be easy, but they were ready to face it with open hearts and clear minds. Finally, the familiar sights of their respective villages came into view. They paused at the crossroads where their paths would diverge, taking a moment to reflect on the journey they had shared. Thank you, Alaric, Leora said, her voice filled with emotion. For everything. I couldn't have asked for a better companion on this journey. Alaric took her hand, his grip firm and reassuring. And thank you, Leora. Your kindness and strength have been my guiding light. We may be parting ways now, but our bond will always remain. With a final embrace, they bid each other farewell, each heading towards their own village, ready to bring the light and lessons of their journey to their communities. As they walked away from the crossroads, they felt a sense of fulfillment and hope. They had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, their shadows reclaimed, their spirits united. And they knew that no matter where their paths led, the true price of their wishes had been worth every moment of their journey.